Graduating in 2016 from the Royal College of Art is looked at as one of the highest or levels of prestige in which you can get. Ironically, it was voted the best design and art school in the world 3 times in a row. What that comes with is realizing its heritage, coming from Charles Darwin and I believe his grandson being the chancellor or the chairman of the school. Because it's been so successful, there's a lot about it that doesn't seem like it has to change or to encompass a large variety of individuals or cultures or people. There was an interesting article. It said that the RCA is becoming a finishing school for the East. Now, what that is saying is that it's inviting international students which are being charged for excess levels, but the working class people that in the UK that are made up of the diaspora and living here aren't present in the institution or are very, very minuscule. At one point, I remember myself being, I think, one of 5 quote unquote African Caribbean students in the building at one time. And there's also a hierarchy in terms of appreciation of design or ability or cultural kind of excellence. And for me, that's a hard thing to deal with. I was born in the UK, but I lived in Africa in the beginning of my life. Living in Senegal, traveling to Yemen, Egypt, Cameroon, Kenya, I've seen the excellence in their academic work, if we look at their knowledge, but also how that linked to their design culture. They were one and the same. And when you bring that over, there's an exoticism that comes in. It goes, oh, it's nice for those kinds of people. But there are many examples where that ingenuity in those nations or in those spaces were far more advanced or form the foundation of the information and data that they're passing down in that institution. So decoloniality is a very serious thing, but for the institution, they're not necessarily realizing what their wisdom is based on first. And then for people like me who may bring it in and say, this is the excellence that exists elsewhere, it's like you have to put it in an African context, so it's in that category. Don't get me wrong, there are times where it doesn't necessarily do it, but it has to be fought for. And it's a tiring process. Academia is a very dangerous environment. It can either be and that causes either you to thrive and to craft that path that you want to take, or you become part of that ecosystem and fuel its own agenda. It either consumes you or you use it. You use it as fuel. At its best, it's a fertile soil that allows emerging designers, practitioners, researchers to create new ways or new forms of thinking, to usher in alternative ways of creation and methodologies. But at its worst, it can become this abyss of arguments of absolutes, where someone believes they have the entire answer for something, and then you've got this never-ending debate where it's tiresome. You get this neighbor where people go back and forth, but then as you look at progress and what's been generated, it's not necessarily there. It can stifle the growth of these individuals, which is unfortunate. In my opinion, academia needs to become a testbed. It needs to embrace failure in every sense of the word and question what it is that is developing the students and the lecturers for. So to put it into slightly more specific context, it's about putting things together, ingredients together that have never been tested before. It's about testing philosophies and ideologies that may be, yes, a couple 100 years old, but seeing whether what has been spawned from that or built on top of that is actually the correct philosophy to build on. Is that, we acknowledge it happens, but does it necessarily serve its place for the mentality that we have today, for the sake of progress? Those philosophies existed in that space under a particular ethos. What's the version of that, or how does it get taken and put into this context now? What does that mean for its students? What does that mean for the communities or the agendas that it can be applied to now?